This is the Creative Bird Strategies podcast and house, featured through Clubhouse. We are on Apple and Spotify. We can be found at thecreativebirdstrategies.com. My name is Joe Scarice. I'm a nationwide direct private lender. I'm also a host and founder of the Creative Bird Strategies house and podcast. So we'll get started here in just a few minutes. We'll be discussing what do you need to have prepared for your lender. So I'm going to do a quick invite with some individuals in. I'm going to post something up real quick here so we can get people started. We had a fantastic Saturday coming back from a holiday. I actually was able to put together 3 new podcasts up and above what we typically do on Saturdays and Sundays with some great service providers. They'll be posted over the next week or so, provided by Perkatech, Yordell Perkins, our social media strategist. I have to say, it was really a lot of fun yesterday doing these podcasts. We interviewed a property management company. We interviewed a real estate entrepreneur. We all, two entrepreneurs actually. One Mike Poggi and the other one Walter Aramo. Unbelievable, talking about the Alchemist Nation. What a fantastic discussion we had. So we're going to have probably 3 or 4 new episodes posted this week. You can download them probably in the next 3 to 5 business days once they're cut and edited. We're almost near 10 episodes so far. So very excited about what's really going on with the podcast, with events that we have coming up. It's just a nice, very healthy relationship that we're having with our followers and our listeners. So I'm going to do a quick, invite for individuals to come in. We'll get this started here in just a few minutes. We'll pound out a checklist, really break down what are lenders really looking for in the asset-based lending space. I mean, it's a lot of people think they know what they need. It's kind of funny watching people on Facebook, give me a quote, give me a quote, give me a quote. But, they really don't know what a lender really needs, and it's some basic questions, it's not that complicated. I mean, asset-based lending has kind of dummied down the whole lending industry for the most part. So kind of surprised that people expect maybe just a drawing of a stick figure up to get a loan, but we'll break it down a little more and kind of really define and make sure you understand what is really needed. I'm just doing a quick invite for some people to come in, and I'm also waiting some moderators. If anybody would like to raise their hand, come on up, and we can kind of get into this a little bit. I'll invite a couple people anyway, just because I know I can. Hang on 1 second here. All right. So let's get into the week, this past week, in the mortgage world. Rates kind of have been really moving around about 6.75 to 7%. They closed out by the end of the week about 6.98. The job reports didn't help it much, but I think they're inflated. I don't think we're going to have much change till after Labor Day, once we get deep into the election, or the re-election or the election of the next president. I really feel the Fed is kind of up against the wall in regards to inflation, the economic uncertainty. Home ownership is really at a downturn right now. People don't want to go out there and buy a house right now. They don't feel compelled to. I think this is a very big opportunity for the entrepreneur that's self-employed, that is identifying properties that maybe once were for the homeowner, and now it's going to be for the homeowner that didn't want to buy the property and has decided to rent for the next couple of years and kind of ride out this market. So I really feel that the rates are going to stay anywhere between 6.75 and 7.25 on the conventional side for quite a while. I think on the commercial side, you're going to be somewhere between 6.75 and 7.75, really depending on a couple of factors. The factors will be broken down by credit score, leverage, the asset type, the type of prepayment that you want on that type of loan. So you have varied prepayments, but you have varied pricing. So anybody that's listening in this morning, I will be providing by the end of this week a pricing sizer for you to price out your own loans. So you'll be able to price out and actually figure out how to run your own numbers. Shani, can you mute it real quick there? There you go. Thank you. So I'm developing something that I'll be providing to the real estate professional, the real estate investor, the real estate agent. I'll be providing the way of pricing out your own deals, where you'll be able to run your own numbers, send it back to me, and you'll be able to see the pricing with me and how the loan will price out. There'll be nothing hidden. Everything will be right up front for you to review. Like I said, it'll be sometime by the end of this week. That was one of my big announcements I'll be making, where we're going to try to really help out the real estate investor to take it to the next level. We want the most educated real estate professionals in front of us. So the pricing sizers will be for not just debt service coverage ratio, but also for bridge lending. See, when it comes to bridge lending, meaning fixed to rent, fixed to flip, you really need to understand a couple basic things. And it's not that complicated. And the answer should be extremely easy. Sometimes a lot of people want to make it more complicated, but basic questions. What is the after repair value? What are the repair costs? And what is the buying price of the property? That should be pretty three basic answers, right? Couldn't imagine where you get these various numbers. If you're giving somebody various numbers, you're going to get a very poor result. You need to be you have to really understand what you're doing when it comes to those three numbers, right? Then the next group of questions. What is your credit score? What is your cash reserves, checking, savings, retirement, lines of credit? And then what is your experience? Well, I walked by a rehab one day. That must give me some experience. Or I'm a licensed realtor. That must give me some experience. Or my uncle was a construction general contractor. That must give me experience. None of that. How many rehabs have you completed in the last 24 months? How many flips have you completed in the last 24 months? How many investment properties do you currently own? These are very specific questions and should have very specific answers. You could not imagine the answers I get back. But I'm a licensed realtor and I've done 100 transactions for 100 other people. Again, how many rehabs have you completed in the last 24 months? Zero. That's fine. It's a starting point. How many flips have you completed in the last 24 months? Zero. Okay, that's fine. It's a little humbling to say that, but honesty will get you to the right program and the right leverage and the right loan that accommodates your experience. If you don't have experience, it's gonna impact leverage, it's gonna impact rate, it's gonna impact origination. So you have to be honest with your loan officer or your account executive to better understand what your financial capability is in the asset-based lending space. So, a couple additional things before we go to our moderators. Okay, some basic, rental and BRRRR purchase checklists that you want to keep in mind. Again, I could send these to you. These are great outlines to understanding your checklist, whether it's a single family through four family, 5 through 25. Is it a fixed to rent? Is it a fixed to flip? Is it a 30-year fixed? Is it a 75% loan to value, 70% loan to value? I do have some preliminary pricing sizers for debt service. I don't have the bridge loans just yet, but I'll be developing them this week to provide to anyone that's interested. So again, we are going to be providing through the Creative Birth Strategies house and podcast pricing sizers to price out your deals. We're literally taking the layer off and literally allowing you to price your own deals out and present them accordingly. But a couple things you really want to understand when you're putting together a solid checklist, you need to understand your market. Once you have figured out your real estate goals and understand your investment criteria, work on finding the market that best fits them, right? Focus especially on picking an area with growing housing market and strong economy. You want a market with solid job growth, inflow of new residents, and that is landlord friendly. That's a little tough, but you got to find that balance. Review the market selection criteria and prioritize it based on what's your most important to you as an investor, as a landlord. Start with a list of major areas where you're residing within an hour, right? Take the Reader Digest version and identify the best opportunities that present to you. Okay, and then back into the criteria that works for you. What type of cash flow you want to make, what type of debt service coverage ratio you want to see, what type of asset you want to own, what type of tenant you want to attract, what type of property management company you want to obtain. Is your LLC set up correctly? Do you have your operating agreement? Do you have your letter of good standing? Do you have your EIN letter? Do you have your articles of formation? These are some really basic questions that you need to have ready and start preparing your checklist for your lender. Good morning, Shani, and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to discussion this morning. What do you need to have prepared for your lender?
Hey, good morning, Joe. I'm Shawnee. I'm in Eastern Pennsylvania, outside of Philly. Licensed realtor, investor. I work a lot with buy and hold clients as well. I think this is a great discussion because I think people really don't have. I can speak for a lot of people that are first-time investors. I work with, of course, both, but people don't have the education they need. They don't. They have no idea what the difference is between a resident mortgage you would get for your own personal home and an investment property. A lot of people just don't know. And you really should never go in blind. So I think it's important that you have all the information that you need. But I also would love for, I know like people are buying a residence for themselves. A lot of times when they have first time buyer programs, they require like some education and they can actually, for them to get that loan to know there's a couple of programs like that. That would be great. They had that for investors because a lot of people just don't know and they go in, not even looking at, they'll think that it makes them money, but they have no idea like what's my acquisition cost, what's going to be my profit margin, what my expenses are going to be. They have no idea. A lot of people are just starting out. So I think education is key. I wish it was required for not only just owner occupied but for investment loans. Thank you.
Thanks, Shani. I've known Shani for close to a decade now. I think she's been in a couple of my classes. They've advanced a little bit, and I really appreciate when she shows up. Good. Hopefully, I'll get to see you sometime soon in one of these events coming up. You never know.
Absolutely.
So, when somebody calls me to say, "Hey, Joe, I'd like to get a quote on a rate," sure, no problem. I need 2 minutes on the phone with you, right? It's not that complicated, okay, to get a quote. I'm also going to set you up for a pricing sizer so you could best understand why I'm coming up with the numbers that I'm coming up with. I don't want to hide anything with my clients. I want my clients to have full transparency with me. And I think whoever you're going to decide to work with, you want full transparency. So I ask some basic questions. What's your full name? What's your email? What's your phone number, right? Real simple stuff. What's your credit score? Please, for the love of God, don't tell me that you got your credit score from Credit Karma. That's the garbage can of all credit reports. Tell me you went onto MyFICO or Experian.com, did a tri-merge credit report, a soft pull on yourself, spend a little money on myself, like $30 to find out what my credit criteria is, what my cash reserves are, meaning checking, savings, lines of credit, and retirement, because I could recognize 70% of the retirement toward cash reserves. I then ask what the name of the LLC is, whether it's for refinance or for purchase or for whatever the buying entity is, and whoever the guarantor is on that property. Now, remember, in most circumstances, we need to see anybody above 19% ownership of that LLC to be a guarantor, or they need to be recognized for their credit report, their cash reserves. So if you have a partner that has poor credit or poor circumstances at the time, keep them under that 19% rule. I'd keep them somewhere between 5 and 19%. Most lenders don't need to see what their financial criteria looks like. So you're going to have your prime borrowers that have at least 660 credit score or better, preferably. There's stacking order on credit stacking of what the pricing will look like at 660 to 680, 680 to 700, 700 to 720, 720 to 740, 740 to 760, 760 and above. Okay? And then I'm going to ask what the address of the property is. So when you're giving me the address of the property, I'm Googling it at the same time. So we're going to know, okay, what's the asset type? Is it single family? Is it 2 through 4? Is it mixed use? Does it have a rentable square footage of 30 to 30% in favor of the residential space? Is it 50-50 if it's mixed use? Is it all commercial? I need to know this, and you need to know this because it's going to come back and bite you if you don't know this. So you need to understand if there is a commercial blend to the subject property, you really need to understand what the rentable square footage is, right? We then want to know, is it a 30-year fixed? What type of leverage are you looking for? If it's a refinance, what do you owe on the property? Is it in hard money? Is that hard money current? Are you behind? What does that situation looks like? Are you looking for cash out? Are you looking for cash neutral? Are you looking for a certain rate? Are you looking for a better cash flow? Are you looking for a better debt service? So these are some questions I will have. Now, this is moving along really quick, right? I then go into what the after repair value is or what the stabilized value is, okay? So if you actually did a fixed to rent, you most likely got an appraisal already knowing what the after repair value is. Has it maintained that value? Did you complete the project? Okay. So then how much were the repairs completed on a project if it was a fixed to rent? Or how many repairs need to be done on the property to create that after repair value? So there's different situations depending on whether it's a purchase or refinance, right? Then you need to know what you're buying it at or what did you buy it at? These are very important questions. When did you buy it? Is it 1 month ago? Is it 3 months ago? Is it 6 months ago? There's different seasoning requirements and criteria to back into the options of financing. Then I'm going to want to know a little more. What is the current rent? Is it leased currently? Is it going to be rented? Is it Section 8? Is it market rent? What are the taxes? Did the tax man come back out after you pulled all these permits and change your taxes? What's the insurance on the property? Is it insured? Is there any other costs that you're incurring on that subject property? And let's talk a little bit about your experience. Do you own a home? Do you rent? Do you own investment properties? How many? How many rehabs have you completed in the last 24 months? How many flips have you completed in the last 24 months? These are basic checklist items. Good morning, Joseph. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to what do you need to have prepared for your lender.
Good morning, Joe. As always, thanks for having me up here. I'm a buy and hold investor, private money lender, investing tax liens in the state of New Jersey. Yeah, listen, this is a great topic. You know, a lot of people, they shy away on the documents. They wait till what they're asked for by whether it's a bank or whether you're going for a conventional or a DSCR loan, and it's really unnecessary, right? I always look at it that whether I'm going to you or I'm going to another loan officer or bank, right, for a residential loan, uh, the basics are going to be there and what they're going to ask, right? They're going to ask for proof of your credit score, proof of income. They're going to ask for your rental portfolio. Like when I go to them, I always have that stuff ready, right? It's in a OneDrive folder that I have. I send a link to them so they don't have to get 100 files in email. They can click on the link and they can look at them. They're all labeled properly. And I always look at it that it's kind of like an interview that you're going for with your lender, right? If you come across as an organized individual, even though I am chaos, I'm organized chaos. But if you come across that you're organized, you know what you're doing, you're professional, they're going to treat you in that manner, right? And it's also going to reduce your your closing period of time. It'll get some confidence in you from the lender, and you'll be able to move your stuff along forward. I'm sure you could attest to that, Joe, right? If you're going working with a client and they take a couple of days to get stuff back to you, and you said, "Hey, I need this," and they take another couple of more days, I mean, what's the priority on their loan, right? Everybody's a priority in your client, but you just can't work on it until they get you that stuff back, right?
So, Joe, great question. Let's stay on mic for a few minutes. So you're a different type of investor. You're very prepared with your tax returns, W-2s, 1099s, and pay stubs, right? You kind of have that available, correct? Currently with your bank, right?
Yeah.
So this is the thing. If you're not going to a bank and you're going to an asset-based lender, you don't need tax returns. You don't need W-2s, 1099s, or pay stubs, right? You strictly need bank statements for the past 2 months, HELOC information, savings checking, retirement account, right? You then need your credit score. You need the LLC corporate veil, right? And all the documents within that. You need to understand what if it's a refinance, what do you currently owe? Is there a mortgage statement or a payoff letter, right? You need to know what you should have an appraisal from when you did the loan on the after repair value, but you should have a good idea what the property is worth, right? And then you should have a signed lease for 12 months. You should have the current tax bill. You should have the current HOA declaration page and what that looks like, so you know what your overhead is. You should understand your cash flow. You should know what type of repairs you completed on the property. You should know what you bought it for. Is there a HUD from the closing? Right, to document that. These are some basic things that should be collected per property. Now, we do offer, and I know, Joe, I've provided it to you, is that data tape where you can actually outline all of that during the process. And I know you have filled it out for me, but it kind of overviews. I mean, you could use that. That's a timeless, and that's a huge asset to have to provide. Whether you're providing it to me or whatever lender you prefer to submit it to, any lender worth their salt could look through that data tape and know exactly what's going on with the property. What's your thoughts to the data tape? What's your thoughts also having accessibility to price your own deals at as an investor like yourself? If you had that option.
No, pricing out your own deals is absolutely important, right? Because it helps you work your numbers. But the data tape, yeah, I mean, listen, when you gave it to me, like I was frustrated about it, right? But I had to do it. And then another lender gave me a personal financial statement, and that's just something that I update regularly. I mean, and you're right on the data tape. It's an address, it's the rent, it's what your acquisition cost is, and as things change, you just update it and it takes minutes after you did the final the first set of work on it. And again, it's something like that you provide for free. And there's no reason why, like, if I'm coming to you for a loan, I don't have that stuff already ready for you, and just hand it to you. Hey, Joe, I need a loan. Here's this stuff, and then just do sweep up along the way, just to get the progress moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not trying to make things complicated. I want to make things really easy for the client. I want the investor's mindset to be like, listen, this is great. This is so convenient. I could take this and provide it to anybody, and they're gonna completely understand who I am, what I'm doing, and what my why is as a real estate investor. You need to treat your real estate business as a business. And I mean, we had dinner last night, Joe. I like to admit you were in company of me, and basically, you're buying a couple more properties. You're increasing your cash flow. You know what your additional cash flow is because you've already ran these numbers on a spreadsheet, right? So you know where you're going to be once you acquire these properties. It's going to be a really easy, whether you want to refinance, buy them cash, buy them with a mortgage, to be able to understand what your cash flow is and understand what your debt service is. Don't you think an investor, the most important part of understanding themselves is understanding their assets? Joe?
Well, that's paramount, right? That's absolutely paramount. If you don't know what you're doing and you're investing in the blind, like, oh, I think my cash flow is this. We talked last night, and I could tell you down to the penny what my portfolio is bringing in, right? Barring any unforeseeable maintenance expenses, right? You can't predict that for the year, but I can tell you how much money I have to set aside for it, and what I anticipated it, and what I spent last year. And I'm not using any fancy spreadsheets or systems, rather, right? Using a spreadsheet, or I use Stessa, which is a free app that's available to anybody. You don't have to pay for it. So I don't do anything fancy in that way, shape, or form. But I can give you a profit and loss statement within probably seconds, if not minutes, of my portfolio. And if you don't know that on your business, whether you have one property or you have 500 properties, well, then I wouldn't have confidence in you if you came to me as a lender, or hey, I need some money to finish this deal. I'd have no confidence in your business whatsoever. And that's again, it's a business, right? It's a profit and loss. And if you're losing money every year, well, then how are you going to pay your loan back that you're going to X lender for, right? So, it's absolutely paramount to have that data in front of you.
Thank you, Joseph. A couple things. We're providing you documentation, one, to understand your maximum allowable offer and how you should be buying into property. Now, should you follow that to be biblical? No. That's something for you to go by. We provide a cash flow worksheet to understand your cash on cash return based on the PITIA of the subject property and what your rental income is and what that difference is going to be in your pocket every month, following all the expenses: property management, deferred maintenance, vacancy, taxes, insurance, HOA, then obviously the monthly debt service of the PI, principal and interest. We're going to provide you a debt service coverage ratio worksheet to understand debt service. We're going to give you also a rehab construction evaluator with the draw schedule so you know how to submit a general construction bid to your lender along with the draw schedule of expectations of how the draw will look like. We'll also now provide you a data tape to maintain your portfolio, whether it's 1 or 100 properties or 1,000 properties. Whatever you think you own, it'll be on the data tape. It'll be clean and easy for any lender to understand. So I'll give you an example. I'm working on a 31 property portfolio. I set up in my data tape, I was able to issue terms within 48 hours for a rehab bridge loan for 29 of them. The other 2 are refinance cash outs based on the data tape completion. It took 15 minutes with the client, and we had a term sheet out there ready to move forward. We're ordering appraisals. All these properties in North Carolina, great market, great cash flow. But now what we're doing is I'm creating a pricing sizer that'll be updated daily, whether it's for a broker, whether it's for a real estate investor, whether it's for a real estate agent, where we're going to take the layer out of the way. You're going to be able to price your own property out. I'm going to teach you how to price your property out, and you're going to send that to me and say, Joe, I want to be at this rate based on this cost. Okay, so we're going to take that layer out of the way for you to now price your own loans, whether it's debt service coverage ratio or bridge. We're going to go to Larry. Good morning and welcome. I know Larry's in the lending space, so welcome. Good morning. A little brief overview who you are, what you do, Larry, and what's your thoughts? What do you need to have prepared for your lender?
Joseph, good morning. Larry Grant at Premier Financial, and that's what I do. I help investors find the money, find the cash. In the middle of getting ready to help my wife out with something, but I did take some notes, and I want to maybe clarify or add to what you had said. So give me one second. Let me get that in front of me. And I appreciate these rooms, Joseph. You always give like super good value. So on the experience side, there are some. I just wanted the investors to be aware that there are some lenders that'll do 3 years. So I'd say make sure you're prepared for up to 3 years. Look, beyond that, it's going to be tough for them to consider it. I mean, if you want to have that listed, you can. But I'd say that 2 to 3 year base is really good to to have prepared. So that's number one. As far as the costs to repair, I would say to get your scope of work nailed down as best as you can. And Joseph, I'm open to your thoughts on this. You don't necessarily have to go to get down to the penny size nail on each job, at least up front. But get it pretty well defined so that there's no surprises down the road. If you're going to be using a GC or you have a contractor, if you have a lender, a lot of this can depend on the scope of work and your experience. But if you have a GC that's going to be required or a contractor, try to get them. You should do this for your own sake anyway, but have them vetted as best you can up front, so that doesn't come back to bite you during the underwriting process. ARV, I would say make sure that your comps, if you're doing your own ARV or estimated, make sure that your comps are good ones. As we all know, a lot of us know or should know, you can go to the other side of the big road, and all of a sudden the comps can go, big time up and down from there. So hopefully that helps. And let me just see if there's anything else I wanted to mention. Joseph Martello, you had mentioned having docs in, your OneDrive or just ready. I think that's great. And it's real easy, like I think you were saying. It may be a little work up front, but you should be organized anyway. And if not, this will help you to get organized. I think that's it up front. Like I said, I'm a little bit on the move, but hopefully that'll help. If I have anything else to add, I can just raise my hand.
So Larry, stay on mic if you don't mind. Okay. So when it comes to the rehab construction lending space, as we know, on the fixed to rent, if it's anything over, I'd say 43% renovation to the purchase price, meaning like if you're buying something for $100,000 and it's over $45,000 roughly, you're gonna definitely need a GC. Anything under like 43%, if it's just cosmetic, most private lending bridge lenders like ourselves will allow some of the work to be done without the GC work. Now, it's going to be case by case. It's also based on the relationship. I'm not going to say that a lender is going to give you the kitchen sink deal one. But if they close one or two deals with you in the same, like say 6 months or 8 months, and there's successful completions of rehab, and that relationship has been built, right? The relationship is very important. If you're bringing back the same client, or you're bringing back the same, you're coming back with another scenario that's relevant to two other successful deals or one successful deal, that lender is going to get very comfortable with you. They're not going to just give you away everything on the first deal. And I think that's what happens with a lot of expectations. The Facebook investor legends, I'll call them, the people that are on Facebook that, they're making off some grand claims of themselves to make themselves feel better on Facebook. I mean, what do you do, Larry, with these clients that just have really bad expectations to the market? They just think they deserve everything. They deserve 100% financing, and they've never done a deal themselves. How do you facilitate that in the mindset as a lender yourself?
Okay, so you were coming in and out there, and some of it was on my end as well, so it was like a double whammy. But I think the bottom line, correct me if I'm wrong, Joseph, but what you're asking is, what do you do with someone that has, with an investor that has greater expectation or a greater opinion of themselves as far as experience goes and what they deserve as far as leverage, correct?
Correct. I mean, I think there's a lot of expectations that are based on poor marketing by, some lenders out there that are just putting things out to just capture you, and then, bait and switch what they're going to provide back. I'm not really a big fan of that. So how do you offset that by, building the relationship, the investor, to kind of get that trust to say, listen, let's get you the first deal done. Let's get you terms. Let's get you closed. And then things are going to get a little, I want to say easier, but the process is going to be a little better. So how do you handle that, where you have a market right now where everybody thinks they're supposed to get 8% bridge money and no points, and we should get 100% financing on everything because we're just great people, and I got a 620 score, but I deserve the same rates as a 700 credit score. How do you deal with that as a lender right now?
Okay, so I'm actually a loan advisor, so I work with different lenders, which kind of helps in that area. What I try to address as much of that up front. So I pretty much I'll do my initial interview with them, or have them send me some key information that I'll send them a questionnaire, and I get that information. I just handle it up front. So I'll tell them, if you've got this kind of experience in the last, if you've got X amount of deals in the last 2 to 3 years, this is what you can expect. And because I know different lenders, I can tell them, look, this is just, this is the way it is, but maybe hold out some hope for them. Say, first of all, if the numbers work, as we've discussed in this room many times, if the numbers work, that's the bottom line. You want to get the numbers to work, make sure they work. And not that you want to just take any deal, but the bottom line is, will the numbers work for you? And if they will, then I'll try to get you the best deal that I can within your given situation. And like you said, there's experience, there's different factors. Two big ones which you just mentioned, I believe, was the credit itself and experience. So that's pretty much it. I'll just do it just up front, let them know there, and then if they have any questions, I can answer it. But just hold that hope. Say, look, once you get this under your belt, they may only be 1 or 2 deals away. Some of them might have a little experience, but just not quite to get to that second tier. And so you can just hold out that hope for them, and guide them that way.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't realize the way that asset-based lending works now. It's based on how many investment properties you own, how many rehabs completed in the last 24 to 36 months, how many flips that have been completed in the last 24 to 36 months, what's your credit score, what's the asset type, what's the cash reserves that you have, right? Who are the partners in the LLC? How does that balance out who is who on in the LLC? Okay? So there's certain basic questions where you could back into a quote rather quickly. It's not that complicated. It shouldn't be complicated because asset-based lending doesn't require all the same financial documentation that a traditional lender asks. Like, I was in an interview yesterday, Larry, with a property manager on our podcast, and he's telling me he's having so many problems with his bank right now because he's in a massive reset of 5-year arms on all these properties. They're all ballooning. The bank's not willing to give him a new loan. They're dragging him along. Okay, and I'm like, well, listen, I really don't care about your tax returns, your W-2s, and 1099s. It's like, what do you mean? Who are you? He's like, don't you need my tax returns? I said, I just have to look at the income and expense of the property based on debt service coverage ratio. I'm assuming credit is 700 above. He goes, oh, absolutely. And I go, how's cash reserves? He goes, I have $1 million in the bank. I said, that's great. I said, how many partners in the LLC? I said, 3. He goes, they're all 700 plus score. I said, do you want 30-year fixed money? What type of prepayment you want with the properties? What type of, what's your plan on the properties in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years? We could do a longer prepayment where there'll be a better rate. Or if you're looking at 1031 some of these properties, we can do a 3-year prepay. We could do a 2-year prepay. We could do a no prepay. But it's all relative to what your plan is with the property. He goes, you're not a bank? I said, no, I'm a hedge fund. I mean, that's what the difference is between a traditional lender and an asset-based lender. We're really looking at the asset. We're really looking at the client and the strategy. And we don't have limitations like a bank does. Oh, you know how banks are. They're like, oh, well, we can't do more than $2 million with you. You're kind of capped out with us. I don't have a cap. You don't have a cap, Larry. Like with the lenders you work with, there's unlimited. There's more money than deals right now, right?
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah. So again, putting together a checklist to be the better investor today is much different than 5 years ago when you had to follow the 10 mortgage rule. You had to find these mysterious banks that would do loans for you in the LLC. Now the banks don't want to do the LLC loans, and now the asset-based lenders want to do all the LLC loans. So it's kind of the whole market has shifted. And that's where you got to build your local team or your regional team or your national team, because it's important to network and find a reputable professionals to work with before you start looking for properties to purchase or refinance. Very least, you got to identify a good agent, real estate agent, a good property manager is key, a good GC. And it's funny. I was talking with the property managers yesterday on the interview, and I said, listen, get your ass up at 6:00 in the morning, get over to the Home Depot, and start giving out some complimentary coffee gift certificates to the guys that are loading 2x6s and 2x4s and sheetrock, because they're going to a job. They're active. I want to know where they're doing their next job, because when they finish with that job, I want them to do my work. I want qualified GCs that are they're actually transactional. And you had to see his face. He's like, oh my God. He goes, that's exactly what I do to find my subcontractors and my contractors right now. I go to Home Depot at 6:00 in the morning and start grabbing and giving out Dunkin' Donut gift certificates. Not a bad idea, right?
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Well, thank you, Larry, for coming up this morning.
No, you're welcome. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you. Quick reset to the Creative Bird Strategy House. We are here every Saturday morning at 8 a.m., every Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. We're now live on Spotify and Apple. We are now a full-blown podcast at Creative Bird Strategies on either one. We have a website, creativebirdstrategies.com, and we are now offering national events across the country through Realty 411, Linda Pelagas, in LA, Denver, Philadelphia. The collaboration with Linda and putting these great events together and working with all of us has just been fantastic. Denver's coming up in March. Philadelphia's in April. LA's in the fall. I know she's probably got a couple other surprises for us as well. We just did a great podcast with one of her previous speakers, Michael Poggi, on land deals and how to make money with land. What a great conversation we had yesterday on a podcast that'll be getting released in the next week with Yardell Perkins of Perkatech, one of our key sponsors. Listen, we are the only group that has all that within Clubhouse. And I want to thank Clubhouse. I hope they listen to these discussions. We're here to provide education, networking, and creating opportunities. We put unique subjects out every Saturday and Sunday, 30 days in advance, so you know exactly what we're speaking about, what we're discussing. We're always on replay. We hide nothing. We are here to provide insight, strategy, and education. Good morning, Linda, and welcome. brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to what do you need to have prepared for your lender.
Good morning, Joseph. Congratulations on the expansion of the Creative Birth Strategies platform on Spotify. And I think it's great what you're doing with your new website, with the podcast. I'm really excited to be associated with you and the Creative Birth Strategies movement. And just really excited where things are going. So congratulations with that. And my name is Linda Pliagas. I'm the founder of Realty411.com. We're a news and information website, and we help investors in their journey. We also produce digital and print magazines, virtual and live events, and more. Now, the documents you're going to need to provide a lender will depend on the type of loan product you're seeking. Now, usually your full doc loan will have the most favorable interest rate, but will also require a lot more documentation. You'll need to get your tax returns ready and provide possibly 2 years worth of tax documents as well. They're also going to analyze your credit score and see how many mortgages you already have. In contrast, a private money loan, hard money loan, or a DSCR loan, which stands for debt service coverage ratio, will often require much less documentation. In fact, the DSCR loan will use a financial metric to assess the entity's ability to generate enough cash to cover its debt service. The type of loan an investor will seek out will depend on many factors, including their down payment, their goals with the property, and the financial credibility of the buyer. Now remember, the greater the down payment, the higher your interest score, and the more documentation you can provide, generally that will help you secure the best financial scenario. Thank you so much. Back to you, Joseph.
Linda, thank you. If you could stay on mic, I mean, have you, being in the industry like yourself, Linda, and being part of a publication, haven't you really felt the difference in the lending space where, everybody used to just go to the bank? Now there's all this money being thrown around, it's almost like water in a way. But there's still a little level of regulation. Like at the LA Re Expo, the only people you had there were asset-based lenders. There was no banks there present. I mean, because if you really want to buy a house, it's great, but everybody's buying investment properties. Have you felt the difference? From a publication perspective, the lending impact to what's going on with your publication and the discussions you're having with real estate professionals. Like, has it changed over the last couple of years, just literally post-COVID?
Oh, absolutely. Well, everything got shaken up when the interest rate hikes happened last year, with so many of them. And quite honestly, a lot of newer investors are not really made aware of all the different financial options that are open to them.
Yeah.
A lot of newer investors that are just starting out, they may only be aware of the traditional financing option because that's what they have on their home. They have a 30-year traditional principal and interest mortgage. But there are so many other options available to investors. And, that's why I love what we do, because we can educate them on the different options that they have available, so that number one, they can qualify for the deal, and number two, they can expand their portfolio much faster. And buy more properties because of the different loan options that are available now. When I started, they weren't that many options available. I mean, I started with traditional financing, 30-year notes, and it was really difficult to qualify. We lost a lot of properties because we didn't qualify for them. If I would have been more well versed on all on private lending and leverage and hard money, bridge loans, then I would have had much more options, and perhaps I wouldn't have lost the properties that I wanted to buy and didn't qualify for. So a lot of it, I think, is education, is knowledge, informing the investors of the different options that are available. And a lot of times when investors are buying property, they're not, they're kind of working on their own, because a lot of times when I buy property, I look for the property and I find the property on my own. So I don't really have a buyer's agent like helping me and guiding me. Now I am a real estate agent, so I do have an advantage, but I think a lot of investors may not have the right person guiding them or mentoring them. And, if they only educated themselves a little bit more, or they have someone to really guide them and help them, I think they would just, be able to really blossom and buy even more properties for their portfolio.
Thank you, Linda. And I don't know if you were on when I announced I'm now providing a pricing sizer by the end of this week that'll be updated daily, where you could price your own loans out, whether for debt service coverage ratio 1 through 4 or even 5 through 25, or bridge loans, meaning fixed to rent or fixed to flip. It'll have all the criteria where you can go in and break it all down and price out your own deals based on experience, based on credit score, based on cash reserves. And to answer Arson's question, he asked about general contracting experience. So basically, if a general contractor has 10 years experience and they want to get into the business, where I meet a lot of them, they really want to get into the business, they want to get involved. I want to see what their first deal is. Like if it's the first deal, I'm going to probably be at 80% on purchase and 100% on the construction. I'm going to want to keep them at under 50% of the renovation to the purchase price. Okay? I might even want to see some of their past immediate rehabs they've done for others. Rates are going to be somewhere between 10 to 12% interest only and a couple points. But once they get past that first deal and they show that they completed it and it's successful, whether they sell it or refinance it, I'm also going to want to see a credit score of 660 credit score or better in that LLC. I'm going to then probably get up to 85% on the purchase, 100% on the construction. They get that third deal done, I'm probably going to go 90% on purchase, 100% on construction. You see how this all works? We're gonna benefit them on their successful tombstones on completed projects. We'll get you up to 90% loan of cost on purchase, 100% construction. I'm not giving you 100% on both. Credit has to still be there because I need to know that there's an exit strategy. I'm not a predatory lender. So I want to be strategic. I want to be very open-minded about it. I want to build the relationship, but I also want to make sure I get my money back at the end of the day, and I'm not going through a foreclosure process to recover my money. And that's probably the biggest concern any lender has is foreclosures. They don't want to foreclose on you. They don't want to own your property. They want you to come back with successful discussions of completed projects. We want to see property appreciation. We want to see that you're buying in an area where it has population growth. The job market is strong. Rental demand is strong because rental right now demand is flatlining with so many units coming to the front line through multifamily development and repurposing of a lot of old office retail. Rental rates need to make sense. You need to understand your rental markets. Property taxes need to be friendly or friendlier. Local regulations, meaning from the landlord-tenant perspective, you're going to hold some of these properties. Now, we're going to go over real quick before we go to our next moderator, top 15 best cities to invest in real estate in 2024 based on this information. Number 1 is Boise, Idaho. Number 2 is Austin, Texas. Number 3 is Orlando, Florida. Number 4 is Tampa, Florida. Number 5 is Reno, Nevada. Number 6 is Raleigh, North Carolina. Number 7 is Spokane, Washington. Number 8 is Chicago, Illinois. Number 9, Houston, Texas. Number 10, Las Vegas, Nevada. Number 11, Charlotte, North Carolina. Number 12, Columbus, Ohio. Number 13, Lakeland, Florida. Number 14, Ocala, Florida. And number 15, Birmingham, Alabama. And I can proudly say I've been in 10 of the top 15 markets in the past year. So, I'm glad I've been out there and networking in these great markets. Good morning, Jim, and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to the discussion this morning. What do you need to have prepared for your lender?
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Clubhouse. I hope everybody's having a sensational Sunday. I don't think there's anything going on today, is there? I don't know. Hey, I'm Jim. I'm out in the Denver area up in Broomfield. I own 2 different meetup groups, and we meet basically 4 times a month with those groups. We also own a coaching program where we help students find the property, find the funding. We help them go through the fix process, and either they flip it or fill it, and then we repeat it. And the biggest things we tell our students is there's a key word in the topic up there, Joe. Be prepared. Start as soon as you think you want to be an investor, start with your company first. Make sure your LLC is set up straight. Talk to an investor-friendly CPA, an investor-friendly lawyer to make sure that paperwork's set up front. Whatever your niche is. If you're going to be a landlord, talk to that same lawyer and make sure your leases are done correctly. I mean, we did a podcast a while back. The guy came on and goes, "Hey, I just turned my home into a rental, and I got this contract, but I'm not protected. When can I change my contract?" We were like, "How long was your lease?" He goes, 12 months. It's like, well, you can change that contract in 12 months. Be prepared up front. Research your niche. We talked about ARV earlier. Do not trust anybody's ARV numbers. Wholesalers' numbers are all over the place. They're very rarely correct. You need to learn how to get online within just a short amount of time, come up with your own realistic ARV, come up with your own realistic rehab budget, and be able to get those numbers correctly so you can give them to people like Joe. But be prepared even before you start looking for a property, and interview agents, real estate, investor-friendly agents that understand what we're talking about in our language. They understand what you're doing, how you're doing it. And get those people interviewed before. Talk to several money sources, both private and commercial, hard money, whatever. Because Joe may be able to help you on 90% of your projects, but there may be a project that Joe may not be a good fit. So you interview several, give them the same questions, give them the same list of questions, interview everybody, and then compare it off the spreadsheet and be ready to go before you even start looking for a project. I've done hard money brokering. I've worked with people like Joe, and I'm also a private money lender. I can't tell you how many times I get a phone call on Friday or worse yet, Saturday, going, "I need money to close on a property Monday," or "I've got a closing Wednesday." Oh, help. Be prepared. Get everything lined up in advance. Then when you find that property, if it's a wholesale deal, we take our students out to houses. And sometimes it's like a showing's at 3 o'clock. We're going to accept offers by 5, and we're going to close this by 6. You don't have the time to go, "Hey, I found a property. Now I need to go find my money." You better have your money done up front. Be prepared. Just like the Boy Scouts, be prepared. And the Coast Guard, I'm a retired Coast Guard, and we're always ready, Semper Paratus. But up front, get everything lined up, interview these people, and have everything in place before you even start looking. So then when you find out how property, the time fuse is short, you can jump on it, pull the trigger, and you'll know that you're going to make good money up front. You make the money when you buy, and you should know how what your outcome's going to be. Hey, come join us, and Miss Linda, Mr. Joseph, and several other speakers from across the country in Denver in March. I got it in the chat up top. We're going to have a multi-day event. We're going to have 30 speakers, vendors. It's going to be a great time. Lunch is going to be included. We have happy hours each night. We're just going to have a great time down here. Sunday, we'll take a bus tour. Tim's going to load it up and take you around the Denver area, showing you different neighborhoods, different markets within the market. And we want to tell you what's going on in Denver, but we want you to come be a part of it. We want to hear what's going on in your area as well. So again, I put the link in the chat here, and we kind of brought back an extra discount. The discount's $50 if you use the code IS50. IS50, and you save $50 at checkout. There's multiple options. You can attend Friday, you can attend Saturday, or you can buy a package where you can attend the whole weekends. Love to see you come out and hang out with Linda, because yes, Linda does some awesome events. I've been with her in Philly, Irvine, LA, Dallas. Is there any others? New York. I've been all over this lady. She knows how to put on a good show. So come be a part of it and have a great weekend. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Jim. Look forward to being out there in Denver. Listen, when you're a nationwide direct private lender, you have the privilege and the opportunity to meet so many great people. Okay, and this year I feel there's compelling opportunities that will emerge in the commercial real estate space for investors. I have no doubt on it, because I'm seeing people coming off the sidelines looking at repurposing properties. The creativity is so high right now. As high interest rates and an economic slowdown, perhaps even a mild recession I think we're in or leaning toward, it's going to lead to bargain pricing for certain assets. All right. Home affordability optimism is not on the rise. It's kind of like has leveled off. It's only out of necessity based on market rates currently. With the average fixed mortgage rate steadfast is around 7%, homeowners are very concerned about whether they want to make that next move. They want to stay still. There's still a very large percentage. I think it's something like 60% or better of people that have mortgages that they have rates in the 2 to 3% range. They really don't want to see 6 or 7% right now for themselves if they wanted to move. They're only moving out of necessity. So I think this is a very unique time for an investor, with asset-based lending being so present in the market, being so present where you can actually get into a deal, close within 3 to 4 weeks with half the paperwork or a quarter of the paperwork. But you still have certain things that need to be done there. You need to know what your credit score is like. You need to know what your cash reserves are. Do you need a line of credit opened up on the unsecured side in the LLC? Do you have an LLC? Do you have all the documents in place? Do you understand comps and values on the after repair value? Are you working with a good realtor that understands those comps? Do they understand market rents versus Section 8 rents in that market? Do they understand the taxes and the insurance? Do they have a good insurance person to go to? These are some very important questions, and they really should understand, what does your pre-approval look like, and what is your max capacity? Okay? There's nothing wrong introducing your realtor to the lender that you're working with. All right? There's absolutely nothing wrong. It's a very open discussion, and there's a lot of honesty being provided. And it's putting people in a line in your power team. Good morning, Mark. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning. What do you need to have prepared for your lender?
We want to thank you for allowing me to speak, Joe. Full-time real estate investor here in South Jersey area. I do buy and holds. Also a South Jersey REIA board member. Also a founder of a group called the Black Investor Group. I'm trying to basically bridge the informational gap to build Black wealth in the Black community. And then I also am a GC of our project and other investor projects as well. I think the guy, Jim Price, speaking hit a lot of it, being prepared. For me, I do a lot of things with private money. So a lot of my borrowing power and leverage relationships. So with that, I usually come prepared with like numbers, how to have multiple exit strategies, how to take my private people their money back in a certain amount of time, and really focus on meeting those deadlines. And then I usually refi out, a lot of it, doing DSCR loans. So I already have like my LLC paperwork together. by the time I start that process, I already have a tenant kind of in place, stream probably already in place, leases already set up. I'm able to get to the closing table pretty quick with my loans. And then when I deal with hard money, once in a blue, when I deal with hard money, I also had a lot of other paperwork together. But for me personally, I like doing private money than a lot of the SCR loans. And then, like for example, deal flow, I do a lot of deals with realtors bringing me pocket listings and leveraging that by having them find me deals in specific areas that I like, and then automatically give them a listing when I fix and flip, or give them that same listing when I go to rent and find a tenant. That's how I've been able to build my portfolio and things of that nature.
Well, it sounds like you have a great real estate investor mindset there, Marcus.
Well, thank you. A lot of it too, Joe, is like just building the right team. Like, I think of, like you say, too, like a basketball analogy, right? Like, who's my starting point guard, right? So a lot of times that's my private money, or my coach. Certain real estate agents that I use are investor friendly. They also own real estate, so that helps. Same thing with my attorney. She owns some real estate. Who are my other investor friends around? Who are they using for insurance? Who are they use? I use a lot of referral things like that. So then, when I speak to those people, I already know what a lot of these companies or other entities are looking for. So then I come with them. It's very easy to get things done when you have those people and things in place.
Well, thank you, Marcus. I don't know if you were part of the announcement. I'm now providing a pricing engine for investors, real estate agents, service providers, brokers, where they could price their own deals out, whether from a brokering perspective or for themselves. We're taking the layer off where you could actually price your own deal out from debt service coverage ratio or bridge with these sizers. I'll have that up and running probably by the end of the week. It's in pre-development. Then also, I still always provide all the worksheets that I provided to the Black Investors Group after I did a brief presentation a couple months ago with Marcus. Listen, there's a financial literacy issue here right now for all real estate investors and real estate agents and service providers. There's not enough education being provided understanding what's going on in the lending industry. You could have the best power team in the world, but if you don't understand lending, you're not going to go too far in growth, in strategy, and education. You need to be educated, understanding what are the elements of a checklist that's needed for a lender. And from an asset-based lending, it's completely different than traditional lending now. Also, you have to have the right mindset. I just put an article out on LinkedIn on real estate investor mindset. Number one is consider real estate investment as a business, not a hobby. Have self-confidence to start a project. Accept that you can't control everything. Have a long-term vision. And always be in learning mode. We have some great educational workshops coming up on understanding asset-based lending. I have one coming up for South Jersey investors. I have another one coming up in Philadelphia. I have some going out I'm going to be out in right past King of Prussia with a presentation I'm doing a couple of those, one out in the Poconos as well, because people want to understand how to put this checklist together to be a better investor for their deals. Good morning, Anna. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to the discussion this morning. What do you need to have prepared for your lender?
Hey, good morning. This is Anna Abbott-Marco. I'm a listing specialist here in Chester County, Pennsylvania. We're about 40 minutes west of Philly. And look, if you're not supplying all your documentation, whether you're owner-occupied, buying your first home, second home, or investing, and you're not speaking to a lender first, you're just window shopping. And I got to tell you, as a realtor, it's a little annoying from the investors out there who, for example, like there's this one up and coming young kid investor here in my local market. I've known him for years and my kids know him and whatever. Anyhow, he owns his first six buy and holds that he's got them all rented out, and then some storage facility places and whatnot. So he's doing great, like as a young kid, right? Now, either realtors don't know enough and he's experienced 6 transactions and hasn't even gotten like the basic understanding from the realtors he's worked with, or I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know where the disconnect is. Like I see articles that talk about, if you were to sell your home yourself, would you do better than you would with a realtor? I think you can't really answer that question honestly unless you know who the realtor is, right? Like more often than not, I find the realtors themselves don't really know enough to get their client through a transaction.
And it's funny that you say that. I used to be a CE instructor outside of working at Temple University at the real estate school. And I had a massive frustration trying to offer the course of asset-based lending to different real estate associations. So I stopped doing it because it was just wasting my time and just wasting a lot of phone calls, because I would bring 30 realtors into a room and discuss asset-based lending, understanding commercial lending. And it was like I was talking a whole nother language, and they felt that they just wanted to stick with home ownership. Now, irony enough, now that the market has shifted in front of their faces, I'm getting all these inquiries to come back to teach the same course, because now they're like, hey, wait a minute. You know what? You were making a lot of sense a couple years ago before COVID. We need you back to help educate us because no one explains it as well as you. And I kind of find a little irony to it. And I'm starting to get back out there in that educational piece. I have about 6 or 7 speakings coming up over the next 45 days. But, it was a massive frustration trying to help realtors understand investing financing, because it was almost like they didn't really want to. It was kind of like secondary to them. And now that business has changed for a lot of them, now everybody wants to be an investor-friendly realtor, and I think it's a little too late for some of them. I think what's happened is the investor got frustrated with a lot of realtors, and a lot of them, a strong percentage of them at least, became licensed realtors to avoid category, weeding out realtors that actually understand being investor friendly. They just became realtors themselves with EXP, Real, all the low priced out, barrier of entry, flagged real estate companies, because there's not a lot of overhead. They're friendly to investor friendly realtors. They don't have all the same requirements that some of these uh, older, long in the tooth real estate offices have. And you're obviously seeing the pivot in front of our eyes.
Well, just to clarify on that point, Joseph, because I was a diamond agent with Berkshire Hathaway.
There you go.
And I have been now and will be for probably ever with EXP. And we certainly don't choose this brokerage because it's, low point of entry. We choose it because we're sick and tired of paying. I was paying.
Well, I meant the overhead.
$100,000 a year getting my license there.
So I meant the overhead. I meant the overhead, meaning low barrier of entry, meaning you don't have a high monthly. That's what I meant. Like with a lot of these bigger ticketed, it's hundreds of dollars a month, plus they're taking way more commission. EXP and Real, I'm a real broker, with real brokerage. We're keeping most of our commissions. So same.
Are very expensive. Let me tell you, for them to make a diamond agent plaque, it cost me $100,000. So
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, and what's happened is the investor sees that, and they're not going to go to those cumbersome, big, weighted down real estate offices. They're going to go to a more flexible office environment. And what that's doing is it eliminating opportunities for the real estate agents that are trying to play catch up to be now investor friendly. Well, guess what? Now their competition in the investor space is the investor, because asset-based lending, they've taken the bull by the horns and understand you don't need to go to the bank. You could go to the hedge fund for self-employed, low doc or no doc type of loan, as long as their credit score is 660 and above. They have cash reserves. They have experience in rehabs or flips. They understand how to buy correctly, like Jim was talking above. They understand after repair value or stabilized value. They understand the rental market. They understand taxes, insurance, property management. They have a relationship typically with a property manager or maintenance company. Now, I know some people like to self-manage, and that's fine, but there's a certain capacity that every investor has that they need to be at a certain point. They're going to need property management. They're going to need it. If they want to grow correctly and keep their books in check and maintenance in check, eventually I feel there's going to be a need for management in place to part of your power team.
They also have to understand, they need to be able to tell a client what an ARV will be on a property. They need to have contractors, handymen, inspectors. They have to have the resources as well in their local market. And I think where a lot of realtors go wrong is they spread themselves thin. They'll go anywhere in the state that they're licensed to sell real estate, and they don't build those relationships, those very necessary relationships, and become hyper local in the market that they truly understand, that they know the local agents and they have all the resources that their clients will need to get through a transaction.
And I don't know if you're aware, I have a course coming up, an evening course in Philadelphia on February 19th at New Bold Exchange. If you want to come by, I'd love to meet you in person, 6:30 to 8:30. We're actually
and where in Philly? There's certain parts I'm not allowed to go to.
South Philadelphia, 17th and Snyder, New Bold Exchange. We'll have bodyguards for you. Just make sure we'll have crowd control when you walk up. Make sure nobody, But it's right off of Snyder Avenue, 17th.
I'm not kidding. We just opened a new office in Fishtown.
Oh, okay.
My husband was adamant about me, so my son wound up, and it's funny because my son's not in real estate, but I had to go see another property beforehand, so he just came to the event with me, and he's like 6'3", 250, 60 pounds.
Oh, just like me.
Right, so he looks like a football player, and people actually thought he was my bodyguard. It was really funny.
What part of Fishtown is EXP up?
It is on, oh gosh,
Gerard?
the building is gorgeous. I absolutely love it. I'll put it in the chat. I'll tell you in a moment.
Yeah, I used to live in Fishtown with my wife. That's why.
I'm terrible with remembering names and addresses. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
York Street, 2424 York Street.
That's where my office used to be. I used to live right across the street. Yeah, I know the area well. Arson, good morning and welcome. Brief overview of who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning. What do you need to have prepared for your lender?
Hi, Joe. Good morning. Appreciate you having me on here. So a little bit about me. Do you hear me well? Because I'm driving right now.
Yes, we do.
Awesome. So I'm basically a real estate agent. I was in the sphere of sales for a while, analytics, finished college, realized that you want to be in the sales sphere if you want to make any kind of money. And I really appreciate this talk. I mean, we're really learning a lot about what docs are required, what information is available, because I think this kind of information outside of you, Joe, I haven't really heard anybody educating about these kind of things online. The only thing that I hear about online is that you can go to some old people and offer them 10 cents on a dollar for their property. That's what everybody's, trying to advertise on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
But I do really appreciate this information. Myself, I'm a real estate agent right now. Sell on average about 7.5 million in Lehigh Valley, and I'm trying to get into investing because I think this is like the next logical step for me. So I do appreciate your knowledge, Joe.
Thank you, Arson. I met Arson at a presentation I did for Garrett Rhodes, I think, or I forget which one, but he reached out to me just recently, so I invited him onto the clubhouse. Glad you were able to make it this morning.
I appreciate it. And yeah, it was a great conference. You taught us a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And again, if you were looking for an educational workshop and you really want to understand the differences between traditional lending, hard money, and asset-based lending, I usually put together either a 60-minute presentation or I could do a full-blown workshop, say on a weekend, which I'm doing for South Jersey investors for about 2 hours. And I usually, sponsor lunch or breakfast, whatever it might be, for the attendees. And we go over, we dive deep. I provide all the worksheets that I provide to anybody that's willing to email me. And I will soon be sending a pricing sizer for people to price out their own deals, which is going to be great. Very excited about that. It's taken about a month to put together. So we could size and price out debt service coverage ratio and bridge loans for you so you can see what you're paying. And it literally just pulls the layer off of understanding how to price out a loan for yourself with a lender. So since I'm a direct private lender, there's no brokerage fees. So we cut all the costs out of the way and just make it one layer. You're working with a direct lender where the money's right behind us. Timothy, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to the discussion this morning. What do you need to have prepared for your lender? Timothy, going once. There you go.
Don't be quick enough. Yes, honestly, all the advice and everything you said, spot on. Sorry, I've been inhaling some anti-mold stuff this morning, but that's doing a project right now. Honestly, again, it comes back to know your numbers. My advice is know your numbers, know which investment vehicle works for you. Research your lenders. Ask 2 or 3 lenders. The stuff that Joe is asking is required. That's going to be pretty much required of anybody who is willing to lend you money. Make sure it's backed. Again, no asset lender wants to be stuck holding the bag for bad decisions. Again, this is something I'm kind of going through now. My background here, I'm a buy and hold real estate investor up here in the Lehigh Valley. I'm also the co-host of the Weekend Wrap Up with Garrett Rhodes. Note tonight, we will not be having that due to the Super Bowl. I hope everybody just enjoys some time off. But we will be back next week with some additional content material, so stay tuned. Just again, thank you for the room. Got a bunch of definitely great knowledgeable moderators up here that are really well versed in their fields. My field is more of project management and buy and hold real estate investing. So I'm glad to have a listen in, and glad that I was able to take back some information from you and other folks out in the investing space. Look forward to getting on the podcast one day. And again, Joseph, thank you very much for having me up on stage.
Thanks, Timothy. There's a comment in the chat, and I just want to add to that. Rates right now in the commercial lending space for 1 through 4 residential investment or 5 through 25 units are near better or equivalent to banks right now, based on speed, expedition, and documentation requirements. So right now, rates for a single family through 4 family with a bank is somewhere between high 6s to mid 7s, with a 5-year ARM and a 25-year amortization. A direct private lender in the asset-based lending space is anywhere between 6.75 and 7.5% on a 30-year fixed, with the options of either a 5-4-3-2-1 prepayment, a 3-2-1, a no prepayment, and your rates vary based on that. Our credit score requirements start at 660, where banks start at 680 minimum, typically on average. So right off the bat, and then not collection of tax returns, pay stubs, W-2s, 1099s, that's off the checklist. So from an investor perspective, for owner-occupied, we don't do owner-occupied. So we're not competing with banks in regards to owner-occupied or secondary homes. We are the competition in the investment space based on a bridge loan that can close between 2 and 3 weeks, meaning a fixed to rent or fixed to flip, or a 30-year fixed loan up to 80% loan to value based on the debt service coverage ratio of 1.0 or better, with a credit score minimum of 660, 30-year fixed with varied prepayment options where a bank only has one prepayment option, closing in 3 to 4 weeks on a refinance. And the only requirements we need is an appraisal to be done and expedited. So right down the middle, asset-based lending has made themselves the competition investment space. You need to understand your checklist. You need to understand how to evaluate your deals. We are now providing multiple worksheets for your education. We're now offering the maximal allowable offer worksheet to how to pencil your deal down to buy smarter. We're offering the cash on cash return, or cash flow worksheet is what we call it, to understand your cash flow on the property every month. We're offering the debt service coverage ratio worksheet to better understand debt service coverage ratio, to be the better investor. We're offering a rehab construction budget worksheet along with a draw schedule to be the better rehabber. We're now then offering a data tape to better pencil your deal portfolio down so you can present it to a lender and understand what you have in front of you as a portfolio owner. And then now we're offering a pricing sizer to price your own loans out, whether it's single family through 4 family, 5 through 25. if it's a fixed to rent, fixed to flip. So there'll be two different type of sizes. One will be debt service, the other will be bridge. All this is based on credit score, cash reserves, the LLC, how many investment properties you own or don't own, how many rehabs you've completed in the last 24 to 36 months or have not, and how many flips that you have completed in the last 24 to 36 months or have not. These are basic questions to price out your deal correctly with a commercial lender working with you and your power team. These are the basic needs that you have to prepare yourself to work with any lender that's out there in the industry right now. I'm so proud of our moderators and what we've done in providing now a live podcast. We're here on Clubhouse. We have national events. We're providing workshops, worksheets. We're interviewing our moderators, getting them in front of everyone on our podcast. We're here at creativebirdstrategies.com. Follow Realty 411. Come to Denver, come to Philadelphia, come to our workshops. Let's get you interviewed on our podcast. Let's get you credibility and branding to your business. Inquire about that as well. Inquire about the worksheets. Inquire about the sizers that are out there. Linda, do you have any final words to our discussion this morning? Linda?
Yes, I would encourage everyone to join us in Denver. Jim and Tim are doing a great job in putting the event together. Joseph will be there. I'll be there. It's wonderful to learn on Clubhouse and online, but nothing really beats out meeting people in person, shaking their hands, and just, the energy of learning all together is amazing. And I would encourage everyone to join us in Denver or join us in one of our upcoming live events. You will be so happy that you did, and you'll learn so much and meet great connections as well.
I also thank you, Linda, and I also want to thank Yardell Perkins of Perkatech, who orchestrates all this behind the scenes. Probably one of the best social media strategists I know in the industry. Does graphic artwork, does website design. He's building out the Creative Bird Strategies website. He's building out my personal website at josephvscarice.com. He's been a vital part of my power team for the last decade, whether running events, sporting events, podcasting, worksheets, spreadsheets, marketing flyers. He's been a great ad. You should add him to your power team as well. I love to finish off our quote this morning that I typically do. Survive too many storms to be bothered by raindrops. Think about that for a few minutes. Everybody have a great Sunday morning. Take care of yourself. We'll be back here Saturday morning, 8 a.m., Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. next week with 2 new subjects. If you need those worksheets, the pricing sizes, whatever you need for whatever assistance, you need an interview on our podcast at creativebirdstrategies.com. Reach out to me. Let's get you in front of people, branding you, building your business like a true real estate professional. Thank you, everyone, and have a great Sunday morning. I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds.